Hello, everyone. This is Robert Gowin. You're listening to the Mentors for Military podcast. And tonight I've got some folks in the chat room as I see it, or on the live page on Mixlr.com. That's mixlr.com. And if you're not there already, please make sure that you jump out and join us so that you can ask any questions for this evening's show. Joining me is Susan Daood, Mike Pritts, and we have a special guest host. That's Kat Kaelin. Welcome to the show, Kat. Appreciate you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. We're not able to get Elisa on. We had some technical difficulties with the feed, and that's very unfortunate. We'll try to work out some arrangement in the future, but Lisa was not able to join us. And Scott and Rudy will also not be joining us this evening, so you've got the gang all here, and we're going to rock and roll. We've got a really cool subject this evening. It's really affecting a lot of the veterans as they separate, and it kind of transitions really nicely from where we were last week, I think, talking about coaching and mentoring and those types of things, because in a lot of cases there are programs and services that are available to military when they separate. And some are familiar, some are not, but then some end up falling into situations where they end up with greater challenges due to the transition and the things that either they experienced while on active duty or just trying to relate back to the private sector, and we'll kind of hit on those subjects. But I just kind of wanted to really open the show up, Mike and Susan and Kat, by talking about how for over 40 years, America has fought its wars with an all-volunteer military, and less than 0.5% of the U.S. population is in the armed forces today. I found that really shocking that it's that small, and it's the lowest rate since World War II. This class of individuals continues to witness a divide between them and the public they're defending. They also have created challenges for military separating and seeking an opportunity to be re-socialized into mainstream society, but unfortunately the separation is widening. And I found that really alarming when I read that, and the LA Times went on to say that even they felt 80% of those serving today came from families who have a history of military service. And I know that I did, and I know Scott did as well, and Mike, I don't know if you did. Susan, I know you're a Navy brat. I'm sorry, an Army brat. Yeah, and I was a Navy brat, and so was Scott. Kat, were you no product of children?
I'm the first in my family.
First, okay. Mike, I never did ask you, Mike, if you ever were.
No, so both of my grandfathers served in the military, but I think after that I had one of my uncles served in Vietnam. And then several of the cousins a generation later have served.
Sam Adams warned of the dangers of really having kind of an all-volunteer force back in 1776. And when I found this piece, I found it also very interesting that he said a standing army, however necessary it may be at some times, is always dangerous to the liberties of the people. Soldiers are apt to consider themselves as a body distinct from the rest of the citizens. And he kind of warned of that you don't want this divide and you don't want this separation. And we've talked about it in many podcasts about, it's very important that those separating from active duty try to find ways to have commonality and socialize back into society. And it's very important for the private sector community to also understand the challenges of veterans and what they faced and not try to stereotype them or put them into, blocks and everything. There are tons of things that go into this. And Kat, you had your own experience because of you recently separating. Maybe tell us a little bit about your background and such, especially what was the reason why you joined?
Okay. Well, when I joined originally, I come from a super small farm town, and I actually joined when I was 17, and at that time I decided to because I didn't know if I was going to get scholarships. I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, and I didn't want to go into debt. So I joined the Guard when I was 17, did the whole basic, split up, went back to high school, and then when I graduated high school, my unit deployed to Iraq. So after I got done with all my training, I went and deployed to Iraq with my transportation company, and came back in 2007. Transition from that was extremely difficult. When I was in Iraq, I was raped twice by another military member. So coming back from into a unit who they stigmatize you anyways for being a young female, trying to wrap your head around what happened to you. That's what, you volunteered to serve your country, and then you deal with this other side of the war. Coming back, trying to, I was 19 years old when I came back, having to deal with all of this. And then it took me a few years. What actually saved my life was my first daughter, when I found out I was pregnant with her, because I felt like my life wasn't my own then. So that really kind of pushed me into a direction where I needed to focus on her and not myself, which, with a lot of our veterans, it's they don't know, they can't find an outlet on where they need to set their focus. So lucky for me, I had her, who I honestly say I was not a statistic, because she did save my life. So I got into recruiting and retention, went and trained a bunch of kids. Well, I wouldn't say kids, soldiers, before they went to basic training. And then I got one of my recruiter buddies actually emailed me about the whole cultural support team and support or female enablers to deploy with special operations. So I'm like, well, shoot, might as well try out for that. And did it, made it, and went on to support the 75th Rangers, worked with all 3 battalions, and actually I got to work with the Delta Squadron, which is pretty cool. And from there, in the deployment, one of my sisters, sister in arms, was killed. She was the first to be killed on the battlefield, and that's Ashley White Stump, who Ashley's War is written about. And from there, I got back, and I felt like my transition, even though I didn't go through, I wouldn't say it was a traumatic event, and it does shake you to the core, but differently. As far as being taken advantage of and becoming a victim to someone who you're supposed to serve beside, who's supposed to be a brother of yours, the feelings are different, but the emotions and the actions are the same. And one thing, like a lot of guys that I know and girls that are transitioning that are having a really hard time, they always ask, like, I can't get control of what's going on with me. And I'm like, and I would say for about 2 to 3 years, you feel like a giant toddler. Like you just have this, you want to have this emotional breakdown, but you're having like a conflict within your own brain, and you just can't shake it. You're like, why can't I've always been in control. I've always done great things with the military. I've contributed. I was a great soldier. And now that I'm out, I'm in a whirlwind of, you just have no idea what's going to happen, and it eats you alive. And for me, I was lucky enough to have a significant other that took care of that was my emotional stability. So, but the problem is a lot that, my husband is military, so he gets it, but a lot of guys and gals that are getting out of the service, they don't have a support system that gets them.
Yeah.
And they don't have you're going through all of the stuff that you don't even know what's going on. But like me, who I've been through it, and I see it, like, hey, like, let me tell you, it's going to be okay. Like, I've been through it. Luckily I had a support system, but and that's where, like you said at the beginning, they're coming out of this transition. It's huge. They don't understand what the hell's going on. And then, they fall apart, finances fall apart, families fall apart. And the next thing you know, you have the homelessness rises, suicide rises, healthcare with the VA. They don't know what to do with us. So, the transition, I was probably, from both deployments, both different aspects, is honestly, it's going to be one of the hardest points in your life, especially if you try to do it alone.
The support group is such a big piece of it, because what I found too in, either through my own transition or everybody I've talked to, is that if you don't have the support group, which is your family, your friends supporting you, a significant other that you might be mentioning, whether it's your brothers and sisters in arms or whether it's on the outside, a balance of those that were loved ones and friends and people that you can connect with in the network to maybe the industry you're going into and networking that we were talking about in previous podcasts of developing, then that's that kind of core group that can at times keep you grounded in different ways, whether it's professionally or personally. And it's so important. But the challenge, I think, is, I started the company Mentors for Military, but the mentors part of it was very important to me with knowing that there are so many that are making that struggle. And it's not like you have a Rolodex or a phone book or a website or someplace that you can always go to go, hey, these are the guys you can go and reach out to and talk to. It's not always readily available. It's not like you go through the transition assistance program and they go, Kat, sit right here. Here's all of our veterans in this database. Reach out, plug, what it is that you're wanting to go into, where you want to live and everything. It'll start narrowing down through an algorithm exactly who it is that you could talk to,
And you don't know how you're going to react too when you get out. And the one of the biggest problems is that emotionally you are going through so much that you don't know how to reach out. You know what I mean? So I think it's great that like you have this podcast and these websites and your business that offers these options that vets can slowly, or even like you're able to give a helping hand and slowly introduce them to things that they may be interested in. Because during that transition time, I mean, when I was going through it, I didn't have a clue what the heck was going on. And it would have been so great to have someone be like, hey, like, you did this while you were in the military. Maybe your strong suits may be this. But even though you may be going through a lot of crap right now, it's going to be okay. And you're going to level out. That's what vets need to hear is like, you will level out eventually. And we're here for you, which is so awesome that you guys are doing this. I just think it's amazing.
Well, I appreciate it.
I wish I would have known about it before.
And Mike, I know you counseled a lot of guys as well, having just recently separated on this very same subject. As a matter of fact, just this past week, about.
Well, I would concur with what you said, Kat. It's a range of emotions. There are a lot of things that people don't tell you, and I think more importantly, the system in place kind of leaves us hanging. It fails us, in my opinion, and for a lot of different reasons. And I'm not going to touch on the ones particularly that you may touch on later or that you already touched on. But for me, I thought that I was a whole list of accomplishments that I've made over 30 years in the military, and the process to help me transition was somewhat juvenile, and I needed something. I needed Robert, man. I needed a guy who'd been out and in the executive world to sit down and talk to me and kind of tell me, hey, Mike, this is a better way for you to go. And ultimately, I took that responsibility on myself, and I applied a lot of the things. And these are the things that I try to counsel others on. Is we're good at a lot of things in the military. If you listen to our podcasts in the past, Kat, you'll hear us talk about mission planning and adaptability and some of the things in SOF that we all say we're the best in the world at. But when we transition, we don't apply those to ourselves. So what I'm trying to tell guys, kids, to use your words, I try to tell kids is when you're getting out, apply the same lessons that we've learned throughout, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, all the lessons that you've learned in the military, they're in your toolbox. Pull those lessons out of your toolbox and put them into work for your own transition.
I think an important note, though, is like she said, we don't know how to ask. And in my case, I served 22 years. I sat at a desk. I didn't do anything important in the Marine Corps. I literally moved papers from one side of the desk to the other. So I didn't get to deploy. I didn't get to do anything great, right? But also being a master sergeant when I retired, I thought that I was on top of the world. I knew what I was doing. I had a college degree with me when I left, and so it should be easy. But then I moved to a city where I knew no one. My husband got a job here. We have no friends and family here. I didn't know how to ask for any help. And I remember specifically the day that was my last day on active duty. It was such a hard day for me. And I remember sitting on the front porch bawling. And my kids kept coming out and asking me, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And I was crying so hard I couldn't explain it. And then finally my husband came out and he was like, what is wrong with you? And I said, This is my last day of active duty in the Marine Corps. I enlisted on my 18th birthday. I've never been anything else. I don't know how to be anything else. So I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know how to act. I don't know how to do anything. And so it's an important note, because even for those of us who left after many, many years, had college degrees and everything, we still don't know how to ask. And I wish, when like Mike said, our transition classes in the Marine Corps were not well, they're not well taught. And I wish that I would have had somebody that said, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And even if it had been 3 important things, I could have then at least said, hey, now I'm onto something. Now I know where to go. Now I know what to ask.
Susan brings up a great point when she says, I don't know how to ask. And that's the same thing within USOCOM, that we're trying to get over the hurdle with guys who are having problems. And, the statistic of 22 veterans committing suicide a day it's tragic, but it's very real. And a lot of the reasons that we see this is because guys like us don't know how to ask. Man, they've been operators for so long. They've had all that responsibility lumped on them. There's an ego that goes along with it, and it's a big ego. And when you have an ego like that, it's very difficult to ask for help. And just to bring something, Robert, out of the chat room, Vic Velkers commented that significant others are affected by this as well. Yeah. And to where Vic states that they're afraid to see someone they perceived as strong as falling apart, and that's very true. And I think that contributes to the difficult aspect of asking for help from people like us.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, Go ahead, Susan.
No, I was going to say I agree with that. And even for someone like myself who wasn't an operator, I have the Marine ego. Marines think we're better than everybody else.
No.
It's the same. And yeah, I know. But it's the same. And like you said, I didn't want, my family had always thought that I was it. I was the career Marine. I locked the family on. I was in charge of everything. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting on the front porch trying to be a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mom. And like I told you before, and Kat, if you go back and listen to some of the old podcasts, it was my 16-year-old son at the time who finally said, Mom, you need to get a job. This is not for you. You need to go get a job. So he was the one really who kind of saved me in the sense that I knew that being a stay-at-home mom wasn't for me. And but I had to be told that by a 16-year-old. How sad is that?
No, I completely agree with you, because when I got back, back to your, Robert, what you were saying about, with SOF, how you pump out your chest and you're told all these things and you're supposed to be the best. And this is how, Rangers and Special Forces and Delta, all these guys need to act, because you're so heroic. And I remember when Ashley died, it just hit me. I've never been a real emotional person, but when I found out that she died, it dropped me to my knees. Like I couldn't imagine. And I had a Ranger, because I'm like, man, I cannot get control of these tears. They just keep flowing, and I remember him saying this, and I'll never forget it. And this is part of the stigma, is he looked at me and he said, Kat, if you're going to mourn, you need to go mourn in your room and get over it. And, and that's pounded in these guys' heads.
Right.
And like you said, with the whole suicide thing, I mean, you look at suicide rate amongst veterans that are in soft units, it's high. And it's because that's what's they're grown and like raised through regiment to do. Like, hey, right. I know that we're going to go out there and lose these guys, but I just got to suck it up and drive on. But the next thing you know, you're going to be sitting at home or getting out of the military, or most of these guys, like, you're broke. So you're getting booted out of the military, even if you don't want to be. And you're sitting there and you're like, man, I have not dealt with any of this stuff. Now that's it. You know what I mean? And that's right. Why they're killing themselves. And being able to, I think, compartmentalize emotions would help with the transition. Because when I got done, like, doing the whole CST thing, like you were saying, Susan, like, I I'm like, man, I just got done doing this awesome mission. You know, we were so praised. Like, we were the little sister on the team. Like, it was awesome. And then now I'm sitting in an empty apartment with a 3-year-old daughter that barely even knows who I am. And, you know, as a single parent, and oh my gosh, you know, like, what am I supposed to do with myself? And it kicks you in the butt so hard. And it, luckily, like you said, your son saved you. Like, my daughter saved me because I had to get up and go do something. And a lot of vets, they don't have the understanding spouse. They don't have the little voice saying, man, you're acting like a weirdo, mom. You need to go do something with yourself. But
well, I mean, if you think about it, only half of 1% really get it in the first place. So you think about that. I mean, you're trying to find people that either understand you because they know who you are, you know, and what your baseline is prior to going in, or they served with you or know you because they're also a veteran and they know what you're going through. But if, like you said, if you don't have that, and if you don't even have that support group, well, then you're just kind of hanging out there, and that's the reason why we find, you know, some of the challenges that we do out there with people trying to make that transition and struggling with it.
Well, hey, Kat, I've got being a mother. Oh, go for it.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, you told a really good story about how all the guys in SOF are top 1%, almost like professional athletes. We get this big ego and everything, but I'd like to hear kind of how you approached it, because I mean, your background, from my opinion, is exactly the same. You know, the selection you guys went through weeded you out from the majority of everybody, all the other women in the military. We wanted the most physically fit, the alpha females, the lionesses, you know, as it's, I think, put in the book.
Yeah.
But I think that you set a very high bar for yourself. You achieve it, and then that feeds the ego. So I think that you're experiencing the same thing that we experience when we separate. So I just kind of like to hear, you know, your own perspective, not what you think we did, but how did it affect Kat?
Well, for me, see, now when I did the whole CST thing, like, you have thousands of packets. I was CST-2, which was still a pilot program, but it was CST-1. They don't like to talk about because it was so jacked up. But CST-2 with us. No, well, they know who they are. But with
we
us,
all have them. We all have them.
Yeah, yes, we do. So there were thousands of packets that went through. They had a reserve tryout, and they had an active duty tryout. So out of the thousands of packets, out of the 2 selection processes, 60 women were selected to go through the soft course up at JFK at Bragg. And then from there, 40 were separated, or 40 went with Special Forces, and then 20 of us went and supported the Rangers. So from there, breaking it down to, you know, and the entire time that we're going through this course, we're having instructors are constantly telling us, like, hey, you girls might think you're the best of the best, but these guys, they hate you. Their wives hate you. Like, they don't want, you're just going out there, you do your job, and then you go ahead and just tuck yourself in bed because they don't want nothing to do with you. So we're having this, like, ingrained in our brains the entire time. But then, and this is, like, one of my favorite things, when the 20 of us went to go work with the Rangers, we had this huge truck, like one of those cattle trucks that was filled with all our gear. And we had gear from, like, regular Army. We had gear from regiment. Like, I think each girl had maybe 5 duffel bags. So anyway, we're at the little training site to go drop our gear and whatnot. And all these Rangers come out and they start unloading our stuff. And I just remember this, and I was like, what? I'm like, why are you touching my stuff? Like, you guys hate us. But no, I mean, honestly, like, that's what, it was such an amazing thing to me, is that these people are judged by their talent. They're judged not by who they are or who they think they are. They are judged on during training, mission, and how their ability to get the job done. And that for me was fulfilling, because I felt that the women I surrounded myself with and that I was deploying with were competent, and we were, you know, top 20 goes with regiment. like those are great people to surround yourself with. And like you said, like it boosts your ego and it makes you feel like, you know, like, yeah, like I'm awesome. So anyway, like we deploy with these guys, you know, at the end of the 8 month rotation, we sat down with General Votel, and, you know, throughout the entire process, we're asking, like, what's going to become of this program? What's going to become of us? Like, how are we going to be implemented in the military? And, you know, we're such an asset to, you know, the mission and the mission success. And General Votel was like, he pretty much just said, like, high five, thank you for your service, and peace out. You know what I mean? Which,
wow.
It gutted a lot of us. Because,
I bet.
You know, we had, like, aspirations of coming back and doing these amazing things. And so anyway, when we got back, like, I think 13 of us came back. Ashley, of course, passed. And then a few of us were just injuries that had to come back early. So when we got back, we went through, I think it was a week of a re-transition training. I think because I was in the reserves, they sent, I think there was three of us that sent to a reserve training place. And then all the active duty girls, like, that we were, like, all, you know, blood, went through this whole ordeal together. They got shipped off back to their duty stations. And then from there, it went from 20 to 13 to 3, and then I flew back home to Nevada to 1 to me. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
One thing that, like you said, like, how is the transition of, like, coming back from, like, you're coming back from, like, top dog status, knowing, you know, like, these elite people are going out and doing these things, and I had never even known this. People don't, even folks in the regular Army, they don't understand the mission set and the type of individuals. Like, yeah, they say that they're egotistical and they look down upon the rest of the Army, but it's not that at all. It's like, you have to have that type of alpha male, alpha female attitude to stay alive.
Right.
And coming back from that type of mission, going back to Nevada, I was honestly, I was gutted. I went from having a platoon of brothers constantly and to just me. And for that alone was, I would say, because, you know, women, we don't have platoons of women that we can just call upon and, you know, go have a beer with because we're having a hard time. We're scattered amongst the country in different units. And I, like you said, with the whole, the transition of it, you're left alone, especially since this was a pilot program. They didn't really think of the aftercare. You're like, oh yeah, you guys can come try out again for the mission, but you pretty much just sat by yourself. And as far as the girls that went with Special Forces, they same deal. They went to came back to the states, and then were dispersed back to their regular units too. So I saw you writing about different organizations or asking about them. I don't know if you're trying to cue me on something.
I'm sorry. I was actually cueing Robert, Kat. What I was saying.
Okay. I was like, that's why I kept cutting off. I'm like, am I supposed to say?
And in the chat room, we're talking about that we tend to group ourselves, you know, into like groups. So Robert knows this about me. I've started a monthly lunch with guys that have retired locally out of 10th Group, and we get together and we kind of do a little bit of networking and a whole lot of storytelling and just a lot of camaraderie, and it kind of keeps us connected to the unit and to each other.
Isn't that great? Like, isn't that the best feeling? Like, I always, because my husband's regiment here, and he always has his buddies, or we always go to barbecues and stuff, and like, that's what those guys do. And it's like, I'm so envious because I want to be able to just, like, join in.
But Kat, there are other organizations, I mean, that people spread around the country, particularly if you're not around an installation. If you're around an installation, there's usually a great network of people that you can tap into. You know, and your husband being from regiment, there are guys from regiment on every installation in the Army, right? So right. You can tap into that. There's associations that are specific to the Rangers and for us for Special Forces that you can tap into in every region. It doesn't matter if you're overseas, man. there's an association that a group that you can meet and have lunch with and kind of just build that camaraderie. But for everybody who goes back to like the little farm town you're from, at least they've usually got a VFW or an American Legion, and through that you can sit with like-minded people,
Right.
and share experiences, and it's not going to be the same. The women that you meet, back at a farm town in Nevada are not going to be the people that you deployed with on
Well,
the
even
CSTs.
the women in the VFW is not, are, those, yeah, they're going to be back to, yeah.
The guys that I would meet if I go to Central Illinois are generally not going to be Green Berets, but we share something from all being service members. And I think that's important, that particularly if we're having these feelings that we can't connect in the local community. And I think some of that's our own responsibility to get over, and it's hard. It's very hard. But part of that is tapping into that older generation of folks who may be at the American Legion or the VFW, and just maybe seeing how they've done it.
No, I completely agree, and that's one of the issues that. So when we got back, we were so I guess kind of pushed aside because we couldn't blend in with our female veteran partners, regular Army or whatnot. Coming back to my unit, nobody had any idea what I was doing, or all they thought was like, oh, you think you're cool because you deployed a special operation. No, and that wasn't the case. And you're exactly right. It's like, you have to stop looking at what other people have done, and instead of, try to be better or put them down, which is what the military has taught us a lot of, is, hey, you gotta rise above that guy or the next guy because you're always being watched. Is, like you said, like, tap in that older generation, tap in the young generation that's coming in that doesn't know about, the last 10 years of our GWAT guys that have been, hunting these people and finding them and killing them or doing bad things to them. But, it's just stop comparing your stories and share your stories. And I think we would be so much better off as a community, as a veteran community, if we were willing to put aside our, soldier status or veteran status or special operations or this unit or on this unit or this unit, and be like, hey, let's just share everything. And I guarantee when we come to the end of it, all the hard trials and everything that we've had to go through, they're going to be the same, or they're going to be similar, and we're going to be able to relate to one another. So yeah, I completely agree. And, I think those organizations, like you said, the VSOs, American Legion, VFW, like it's just, the guys that are coming out, after the full 10 years, going and talking to them and opening their ears to what we've been through, because we don't know what they've been through back in Vietnam or Gulf War or whatnot, and seeing what's going on in the last 10 years and what to prepare for the new guys that are going to be coming in. Because, it's a whole nother generation too. So no, you nailed it right on the head.
Well, Elisa was going to be on the show, and one of the things that she was going to be talking about is a organization called Women Veterans Interactive, and their mission is really to enhance the well-being of women veterans through advocacy, empowerment, interaction, outreach, and unification. I know they're all over. They have 12 different states at least that they cover, and you can go out and find them on Women Veterans Interactive, WVI.org, or Women's Veterans Interactive.org. And they do a lot of different things. And Susan, you belong to an organization that the Marines have for women as well. Maybe you can shed a little bit of light on that.
Yeah, so I belong to the Women Marines Association, and we have chapters in almost every state in the United States, and some states have more than one chapter. I started a chapter here in Columbus because we didn't have a chapter close to me. And basically the premise of the whole program is, one, to get women Marines together to share their camaraderie and share their stories, because there are not a lot of women Marines, around the world. We're the smallest branch, and we have the smallest percentage of ourselves in the Marine Corps. And then we also give out scholarships to college students, and as you can apply to any scholarship as long as you're sponsored by a woman Marine. And then the biggest thing is we do community service for women in the VA. So we keep track of all of the hours that we do at any VA hospital, clinic, etc., so that we focus on we try to do women Marines first, but there's so few that are actually in care at the VA. And here in Columbus, there are zero. And when we went there and asked them, you know, like, why is that? And they said that women do not like to ask for help. Women don't self-identify their issues. They feel like they're second-class citizens as compared to the males that they served alongside. And so
you found this same challenge last week during our mentoring discussion. I mean, because you mentioned that it's challenging. You would probably prefer to have a female mentor over a male mentor, and it's challenging to find somebody that you could probably relate to in that sense, to be truly a mentor and help you and guide you.
Yes, because my last duty station in the Marine Corps, I worked alongside recon Marines, and there were, 20 or 30 of those guys, and then me. And I was the only girl, and I was always the fly on the wall because I would just observe these guys and how they interacted with each other. And then, there were times when they said things to me that were inappropriate, and I would laugh it off, but I would think, in my head that they had viewed me similar to what Kat was told when she went on the CST team. These guys hate you. They don't want you around. So just keep your mouth shut, do what you're told, stay in the corner. And I obviously learned the same that she learned. They're not like that. Once you get in there and you're talking to them, they treat you like an equal.
You got two paddles back behind you there. They gave you awards.
They did. I got 2 paddles out of the deal. And I think that at the end, I finally earned my place.
Right.
But I still feel, though, like that second-class citizen. I think a lot of it is self-induced. But it's just a difficult, and like Kat, I'm sure, coming back, like she did way more in her short career than I did in my long career. And so I can just imagine the dichotomy of feelings that she had because she was a part of it, but maybe she didn't feel like she was a part of it. She got told things, but then she found out that it really wasn't like that anymore. And it's a lot to deal with. And I still, I look at Mike, I hear him speak every week. He speaks very well. He has presence about himself. It's clearly that he's done something with his Army career. And I think there's no way I can compete with that. Like he's up here and I'm down there.
Yeah.
And I know that it's probably, he's looking at me like I'm crazy, but I think women in the military do that to themselves. And that's why we struggle a little bit harder with a lot of things because we always feel like we're still that second-class citizen, or we feel like I can't ask a Green Beret to be my mentor or want a Green Beret as a mentor because I don't feel like he could help me because I'm not in the same arena as him, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I mean, you and Kat both experienced that. Go ahead, Kat.
No, that's what I was thinking. Like when my husband and all of his buddies, like these are guys I've deployed with, guys I've shared missions with. I mean, literally was on the ground with them when things have happened. And I still feel like, no, I'm going to be, like you said, the fly on the wall. I'm not going to contribute. I'm just going to go back because at times you feel like a second class citizen because even though you were there and you were involved and you did see everything, it's still that you put that, like, it's not them. It's not the Rangers are awesome. Like they were the most awesome people to work with, great personalities, very, humble individuals. But for me, putting myself, like you said, Susan, like you put yourself in that position and you feed off of that. Like I can't, join the conversation or I can't go ask for help because with the whole military sexual trauma, going in and being like, I don't know what is wrong with me. And I remember a VA doctor told me, she's like, well, did you see combat? I'm like, well, yeah, but that doesn't, that's fine. Like, I completely understand that people die, that my brothers in arms, my sister in arms have died. I get that. I have seen dead bodies. I have seen the aftermath of war over there. But that's not what's keeping me up at night. You know what I mean? And they're just like, well, since you did see dead bodies, then we're just going to label this as PTSD. And it's like, you just are like, well, but that's not the issue.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you don't want to be involved in that. And it's like, But I think too, with the way that the military is going, hopefully, what that's like an entirely different conversation. But I think that having, you know, just the status of, hey, women will have the opportunity to, hopefully it will get rid of that. Hopefully it will allow women to be like, hey, I did do this and I did contribute to this, and stop putting themselves down and stop putting each other down too. Because honestly, I do feel like women veterans, women in the military are their own worst enemy. Because I feel like
the
guys
agree.
that I worked with were awesome, but the women, I mean, the girls too that I went over there with the CSTs, they were great too. But coming back, oh no, we will destroy ourselves.
We do, and I wonder if that is why, because you and I are not alone in that feeling. I mean, there's tons of women who served in all branches who feel the same way. We all feel like that second-class citizen status. But I wonder if that is what contributes to why women have a higher percentage of killing themselves and being homeless and all of that, because they will not ask for help and they will not treat themselves like an equal.
Mm-hmm. Or just or value their service. You know, it's we know that what we're capable of doing, and we need to understand that if you fail, it's not, you know, don't put it on your gender, or it's your own capabilities, and you need to accept that. You know what I mean? And when it comes down to, you know, like you said, like if we were to just focus on our achievements, then I think that we would be better off as a unit of women, rather than trying to individualize ourselves like, oh, I did this, but I'm not going to take credit for this because I'm female. So
right. And I still, even in these podcasts, I find myself saying I will never be in the same arena with Mike, because Mike had a 30-year career as a Green Beret. I was an admin chief in the Marine Corps. And I just, you know, I'm sure, and he makes faces at me and he's telling me that I'm nuts, that my career was just as important as his career. We just happened to do different things, but it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I just can't get over that thing it's stopping me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting too, you know, listening to the both of you, you know, Kat, I think that, and I think you hit on this, but I mean, if you were to ask your brothers in arms there, especially with the 75th Ranger Regiment, that how their perspective is of you, they would probably be shocked that you even brought the question up. Because in their eyes, they probably see you the same, just like Mike said, that he sees you the same as what you experienced and how you, you know, what you went through and everything. There are a lot of similarities. There are, like you had mentioned before, that common ground that'll always be there. It's just that self-confidence that then needs to come out, you know.
No, it just, like, you know, like with being in special, like working with special operations, like you get this big ego and you're overly confident. But even when I was over there, like I was always, I'm not, like, even though I'm in it, I'm not in it. You know what I mean? Like, even, like, I know I'm the only girl out there. I got that. And, you know, these guys that I'm working with, the platoons, like, they're awesome. You know what I mean? But I would never, and it's the same, like you said, like, I would compare myself to them, even though on paper, like, mission success, how CSTs contributed to mission success and brought in, you know, the enemy off the battlefield, or whatever you want to call it. It was there with numbers, black and white numbers, but still, like, you look at it and you're like, I'm here as an enabler. And that was, like, the biggest thing is, like, people are like, you're not a ranger. Or even with Ashley, like, she's not a ranger. Like, I got it. Like, she didn't go.
Who would say that?
Oh man, it's all over. Like, when we got back, even just with the combat patch, we got Joint Special Operations Command for our combat patch. We were not allowed to wear
the Ranger scroll.
75th Ranger scroll for a combat patch, not for a Ranger tab, but as a combat patch, because you know, it's just, women will not wear that.
Right.
No, they just will not wear that. Right. You know what I mean? And that you feel like, even being around it, you're just like, no. You know, like, I know, I got it. Like, I am not a Ranger. I am an enabler out here. You know what I mean? Like, I understand my role, but you just kind of, you're like tippy-toeing. It's like walking on eggshells. I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells around everything, even though, like, my accomplishments and my success rate is high, I still would always downgrade any of that experience, and it eats at you, because you just like you said, when you come home and you're sitting there like, man, I did all these awesome things, but then you start feeling like, oh, all the, yeah, but this, and I really didn't do this, and they killed all the people, or they did all this, and they got to wear all the cool gear. I'm just like, I'm back here doing this, and that, like, feeding off that negativity is what happens. Is like, you start shortchanging everything in your military career, and then it, like, you think like you end up with nothing.
Right.
So then you're just sitting there like, I have nothing else to give, to contribute even to the military that I spent the last 10 years doing, or 20, 30 years doing this. How am I going to contribute to the civilian side when I don't even know how to act around these people, So.
Well, it's such a fast transition. I mean, God, we getting back to that, I wanted to throw in there, it was like going 120 miles an hour and all of a sudden slamming on your brakes and trying to stop within 5 feet. It's just not going to happen. Inertia and the force and everything. And it seems like that's what they kind of thrust you into. They figured, okay, well, you're a part-time soldier, you're a reservist, therefore you should easily transition probably back to the private sector. Let's put you back through a week, kind of breakdown, probably, CIF type thing, turn in your gear and, feed you a couple of days and, do all the stuff to transition you out of paperwork-wise. But then here you go, you're gone. Because they probably figured you were going to survive rather quickly.
Oh, it was the worst. And that is a huge reason why I got out, because, and this is silly, when they separated us at Fort Bragg and I was on my own, I had to go out to all my appointments and yada yada, just how messed up my brain was. In 1 week time frame of me being there, I lost my wallet 3 times. I was a scatterbrain. Like, yeah. I remember I had to go to the MP station and had to file the same dang report over my ID card because I lost it 3 times. And I was just like, man, my brain just feels like, I feel like there's a little person in there that's like just wailing on my skull. Like, and I cannot get a hold of them. You know what I mean? They're just destroying me. And I knew, like, when I came back, I knew if I were to go back to active duty or to pursue something that was so intense with not knowing what the other side was, where it was going to lead me, I know that my daughter wouldn't have been enough. And for me, it was like, Kat, you got to stop doing this stuff because it's not helping you. So you need to stop. You got to realize that the next year, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to be jumping through hoops like a crazy person and acting erratic at times, and your life is going to be a complete whirlwind of garbage. But you got to, that's what I knew that is what my next mission was. Because if I were to go back to active duty or to stay in, then I would just keep going into the same situation over and over and over again. And the outcome afterwards was going to be 10 times more horrendous. So,
for clarification, you just got out last July, right? I mean, it was, or rather recently. So, I mean, you really haven't had a whole lot of time even now to have fully transitioned, more than likely, from what it is that you experienced or what you did and such.
Right. I was separated last July, but I went into the IRR when I returned from that deployment back at the beginning of 2013. And I'll tell you, the last 2 years were probably the 2 hardest years of my life, just having to get through it day by day with trying to get assistance through the VA or just going to civilian doctors because they don't understand, and if you try to, the worst thing is you can go in there and you tell them like, hey, I'm feeling this way. How do I stop feeling this way? That's what I want. Like, I want that little guy that's inside of my brain to stop running around on a hamster wheel and just, to let me take control again, and it's like, when you go to the VA and they want to hear about every single thing, and then they start picking at stuff, and then they want to label you with this, and you have this, and then you're going to have to be loaded with all these medication, and then they want to put you on, I swear, the VA, I feel like, no offense to old people, but man, I feel like I have an old person's medicine cabinet, because every single day I have UPS. Oh, Kat, these are for you. And it's like, I have so many things of naproxen. Like my liver is like shriveling up inside, you know, and that's not like, that's not
Yeah.
the answer.
No,
Like
totally
we
not.
got, we got to get inside these vets' brains. And the best thing is like what we're doing right now is just talking about it. And someone's going to listen to this and be like, yeah, I have that little guy that's running around in my brain too. And you know what? I'm going to go straight to these mentors and find assistance because I'm not going to deal with this for the next 2 years. You know, after the whole rape situation, it took me 8 years to figure it out for myself. And I would lay my life down for any other veteran, male or female, to not have to waste 8 years of their life to do that. Because you just need the help. And we're like, you're there. Like, you guys are doing this for us. And it's awesome.
Listen,
like,
Kat, you are a pretty strong woman yourself. I mean, you know, the things that you've gone through, the struggles that you've had, I think you're a great mentor and a great example of, you know, kind of going through this, realizing the struggles that are real, and that, you know, that it takes sometimes, I don't know, it takes a village. It takes an army. It takes, you know, a group of individuals. But having someone like you that's been there and done that, I think you're a great role model and a great example for others. And I'm sure those that are going to be listening to this podcast, especially those women who are like yourself and Susan that struggle with some of these issues, hopefully this will give a lot of, you know, comfort to them to know, okay, you know, I'm not alone in this. You know, it's great.
well, what's awesome is that it's just temporary. You know what I mean? Like, this part of your life that hurts so much and that is so heavy. Like, this will be the heaviest time of your life. And I'm not going to lie to you or sugarcoat it at all, but you're going to get through it. And asking for help it's not weak.
Right.
We've all been there. You know what I mean?
You got to get out of the suck
weak.
it up attitude. I mean, I used to use that with my kids all the time, you know, but it's the same thing. I mean, we constantly think that, and you've got to get out of it. You got to break that mold, and you really got to reach out and ask. And I think that's for anything, whether it's, you know, things we've talked about as simple as looking for employment or a career change, but sometimes it's just needing a friend and somebody to be in there. And you know, and you're struggling, then you got to have a network of individuals that are going to be there and be willing to help you out. And that's kind of that support group. I want to kind of hit on, too, though, some of the things that you're working on right now, because you're involved in the Miss Veterans America, I guess is what it is, 2016, whose platform this year, I take it, is on ending homelessness. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so it's actually kind of ingenious. Miss Veteran America competition was created by Final Salute Incorporated. So the competitors are veterans across the board. It doesn't, from any service, any female veteran. If they decide they want to do the competition.
And they could be on active duty or a veteran, right?
You can be deployed.
Okay.
Yeah, you can be active duty. You just have to get your commander to sign off on it. But so Final Salute Incorporated is their mission is they want to end homelessness for women, veterans, and their children. So their biggest way of raising funds and just awareness is through the Miss Veteran America competition. So not only do you have women veterans who we're such a small percentage of, you know, the military in general, and then just the community, like civilian-wise or veteran community-wise, we don't know each other. So this competition not only is advocating for homeless veterans and their children, which I think is awesome, but they're bringing together women veterans. So as part of your campaign, of course, you're bringing awareness to the issue of homeless veterans. So homeless female veterans are twice as likely to become homeless than our male counterparts, and 4 times as likely to become homeless than civilian women. So, which is insane to me. And if you look at just the statistics, like across the board, yes, there's shelters out there, but there's never any, you know, a lot of shelters are mixed. A lot of shelters are, and it comes right back to the whole community thing, community of women veterans who that are going through the same thing. So having, you're going through this part in your life, this transition that left you homeless, but if you could have a place to go with your children, you served also, but then you're surrounded by people that are going through the same issues as you, and that understand that this is a temporary point in your life. Like that's why this campaign it's not so much of the competition, but just raising awareness for this is so important. So anyway, the competition, they have regionals for East Coast is in Arlington, and then the West Coast is in Las Vegas. So what's great though about these regionals is that the women that have decided to run, we all come to the regionals for that weekend. And then not only are you're campaigning for this great cause, but you get to meet all these women,
new network,
who have served. Yes. Yeah. And they're your, like Susan, like you could do it. Like go 2017, Miss Veteran America. Like it is. It's an amazing thing for you to, like, you served and you can go there and just, there's a community right there. Like you just found all these women that you know that you can rely on if you need to. So what interests me into doing this, because I didn't know so much about the epidemic of homelessness. For me, I was going through the transition myself. So, and like I said, I had the support system.
Right.
I had somebody who said, you can be weak, and that's fine. But there are veterans out there that it's not fine. They have to keep going through it, and then they're left with nothing. So, I hadn't heard of it. And the way that I did find out about it was, so Ashley White's mom and Gail, she was the keynote speaker at last year's, the 2015 competition, the finals, and they posted some things on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, what is this? Let me check it out. So right. I'm like, oh, so I decided to run in honor of Ashley because, that's just the type of person that she is. And I feel like it's just so important. And now that I started it back in January, now that I've really been like researching it and digging into it, like it's huge and it's an issue, and it's not just, it's not just something that you kind of think about on, like you see all these old vets out there and they have their little World War II hat or something, and you would never expect to see a young female with just some children asking for change who actually went, was in the war at the beginning in 2001, or, was a GWAT soldier for 10 years. So a big thing is about raising awareness. And right now, Final Salute Inc. has 15 shelters across the nation for women veterans, and the numbers are growing. And they're like, resources wise, like they help with the transition, they help with resources, they help if like women veterans are starting to struggle. Like you can call them and say, hey, like I'm having a hard time, and they're going to be there for you. So it's a great cause, and I'm really honored to be a part of it and to be a semifinalist, which is awesome. But that's just one of the starting things that I'm working on right now.
It's really good because you mentioned about the 4 times more likely, but I also found statistics on a previous podcast show where women are more likely to find employment upon separation than their male counterparts. But yet they're, in researching about what you're doing in terms of homelessness, I found that women veterans are 4 times more likely than men to become homeless. So when you think about that, they either go from hero to zero. It's one of those things where you're either going to go out there and you're going to be real successful, or your chances might be just as great to become homeless. That was so interesting to me.
Right. And a lot of it too, like I said about when I went in to see the VA about my whole MST situation, they don't know how to handle that. And I know, I don't know exactly, but I know that it does happen to both male and female, and the resources are not available. The stigma is so high, and they, like I said, it took me 8 years to be like, Kat, like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like you are not your experience, you know what I mean? And I would hate for some other vet to have to deal with that. So to actually get to the point where you come into this transition, especially after such a horrific event were to happen, you're left to the streets, and then you go to a shelter where, bad things happen in shelters.
Yeah.
That there was one of the stories on the Final Salute Inc. website is how a lot of women that may be MST survivors, they become homeless, they go to these shelters, and then it continues to happen, and that's horrific. It is,
yes.
And it's uncalled for and unnecessary. So, having just an outlet like that is extremely important, especially for how high MST is in the military.
How does one really kind of support these efforts? I mean, so is there a specific site, or like if people wanted to sponsor yourself or another Miss Veteran, what are the ways that you can find that and you go about supporting?
Well, so as part of the Miss Veteran campaign, you have to set up a Facebook page as well as a Twitter account. So to follow me on Twitter, which I'm new to Twitter. Twitter was kind of a weird thing for me, especially if you can't just run your mouth on there. You're only limited. So,
yeah.
So my Twitter account is at MVA 2016, and it's KATK. So at MVA 2016 Kat K. And then and you'll see a goofy picture with me, and Ashley's in it, our interpreter, and 2 other gals that I served with. And then on Facebook, hold on, it's a long one.
I think we've got it in the chat room here. Yeah, I think it's facebook.com MVA 2016 Kat K, and then it's / question mark FREF equals TS. What I'll do is I'll tweet that out for those that are interested.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I'll not only do that, but I think we've got an automatic link as well on the Mentors for Military Facebook page with one of the pictures that we put up there that you can click. But I'll also make sure that I put it on the all the pages and contact information, including the podcast that we put up on the mentorsformilitary.com website. That way they can get in contact with you and follow you and support you on your efforts. And as well as all the MVAs, look out there at all the Miss Veterans that are running for Miss Veteran America. And
absolutely, you'll see if you Facebook MVA 2016, you're going to see all the women, and you can follow all of their stories and journeys throughout this whole thing. But one of the biggest things for our campaign is the fundraising for Final Salute, and all of us that are campaigning are you can donate to our CrowdRise website, which I believe is listed. I'm not sure if you got that listed, or I can shoot it to you if you'd
don't, but we can put it up, because it's on your Twitter page, isn't it? Connection. I think.
It's the crowdrise.com/MVA 2016 Kat K. And the goal for each competitor is to raise $5,000, which some of the girls are actually very close to doing, which is absolutely awesome. But I really think if we get the awareness out and target this issue, we can raise way more than that. But if people could just throw that coffee money to the website, that would be awesome, because it helps so much. So yeah, I gotta cut my lattes short for the week.
I would say, Kat, more than just throwing your coffee money away. You mentioned this, I think, way back on your Facebook page, and I'm following both your Facebook and your Twitter, that you didn't feel comfortable asking people to donate. And I do some fundraising for a couple of causes, and I think a lot of people do that, and you've got to get over that hump of feeling like you're asking for something you're not.
Yeah.
People look for this kind of cause to donate to. People want to give to this. So flood your network. I'm flooding mine with your stuff. Vic Felker's in a chat room. He asked for your information. He's going to flood it. As many people as we can get to understand the platform of Miss Vet America, that will just help your cause. It'll help all the contestants' cause, and it's going to help the platform.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that up, because that was a huge reason I feel like through this healing process of mine is, even though I'm not serving in the military still, like I still have the means to serve. Like I'm not just
Right.
a floppy fish. Like I want to serve my fellow veterans. I want to serve my community, and I really like that was the hardest thing. I was like, Kat, you're gonna have to go ask for people's help. Like you got to go out there and do this. And I try to word it to where it doesn't make me feel so like uneasy. But like you said, like people, they want to contribute to this. They like people out there don't want to see our vets on the street. And I feel like if we can raise the awareness and raise the cause and just put it out there, like it's going to help so much, even with, like you said, just people going out to other resources, the VFW or American Legion or whatnot, to lean on one another instead of, not asking for help, which...
Well, think about it this way. There's 22 million veterans that are out there. So if each of them gave $1, that's $22 million. So, I mean, again, there's a big network out there. But there is a huge network out there, and I think sometimes it might be just bringing an awareness that you are a veteran, because as women, maybe it's not as recognizable. With guys, sometimes there's a certain way you walk, there's a certain way you carry yourself that people can identify with. They don't usually look for that in a woman when they're walking, or like, oh, okay, they must be, Susan talked about the way the square shoulders and all that she had at work, and they identified at the very beginning with their military experience. But it is a challenge sometimes to spot women veterans. It's not a badge that you guys always wear. You're not wearing always the hat or the whatever, like, I'm wearing now, or what.
And we don't have beards.
And you don't have the beard, yeah. So, what you...
I know, when I got out of the military, I cut all my hair off. I'm like, I don't have to wear a bun anymore. I could dye my hair pink if I want to. I am going against the whole scheme of things. But, you try, it's funny because, like, when you're out, it's like, I want to look as less military as I possibly can, And,
yeah, we talked about that actually in a previous podcast about the whole stickers, the I love me on the back. You got the Ranger, you got the the whole Pathfinder, you got everything, your whole 201 file, we called it on your back window,
Oh, God, yeah. I have to wait at least until I'm 60 to do that. I'm like keeping it low key.
So your husband doesn't have the scroll on the back of his window of his car?
God, no.
Oh, okay.
No. If I always wanted to put that, like, my other half is in Afghanistan, or to post that all over his page or whatever, and he just shakes his head at me. He's like, don't do it. Like, don't use it.
Well, I'm glad that you came on this show, Kat. And, tonight's topic was really important in so many different levels, because not only is it about transition, but it's also about just developing that support network, knowing that there's a program that's out there for you. Google is amazing. If you go out there and start searching, you're liable to find all kinds of organizations that are set up to help veterans as they transition or in trying to get back into society. And we talked about the VSOs and those types of things. But preparation for life after the military is so very important as well. Planning is key. We've talked about it in previous podcasts. And a veteran who separates and doesn't have a strong support group to assist them isn't probably prepared for the transition. So it's part of the planning process and beginning very early. Build that network of military and non-military to help you get that support through your transition and also into your next career, because it's not something that we mentioned that's one and done. Veterans love to give back, even things like what we're doing right here. It's brought to you by veterans who really just want to share the information and share their stories and try to help other veterans be more successful. And if you enjoyed your service and camaraderie and fellowship with your brothers and sisters in arms while you were in, then try to find ways to give back yourself. Kat mentioned the way that she's doing this with this program and with other things. Mentoring others or finding community outreach programs are great ways to give back within your local communities and, support those who are coming off active duty. So appreciate everybody that came out into the Mixler live page chat room this evening. And if you didn't join us, make sure you do this coming Wednesday when we'll be back on again live. And join us, create an account at mixlr.com. Go out to our mentorsformilitary.com page and follow us on there of some of our services as well as the other podcasts if you haven't had a chance to listen to those yet. And on behalf of Susan, Mike, and Kat, appreciate everybody for joining us this evening on this show. And we hope you guys have a great day.